Respected Sartaji Sahab, Madam Marvi Memon Sahaba, all the people sitting here, all the speakers, it is a proud privilege to be here presenting very briefly the work of the Disaster Management Authority and the collaboration that we got with the NSER Income Support Program in the form of a data that we utilize in our one of the initiatives for future. Very briefly, I will talk about the vulnerabilities of a country with regard to the climate change, and that basically prompted us to get into this sort of an engagement with the NSER Income Support Program. You may see that from this graph that Pakistan is, from 2005 to 2014, is among the top 10 countries which got affected massively. Pakistan got about 25 billion loss by virtue of two major disasters, that is the riverine as well as the flash flooding as well as the earthquakes. Prominent among these were the 2014 floods from the south, the 2010 floods all over the country, and the 2005 earthquake in our northern part. The Global Climate Risk Index put Pakistan at number 8. Now it is increased further to number 7 with regard to the climate vulnerability and climate severity that the country is facing, and that manifests the need how well we can put in our communities in the safer position so that we are going to face these things again and again, and how well we plan for the future, keeping this reality in mind. A recent research undertaken by Pakistan Met Department has shown that there is a continuous process of blackening of our glaciers, and that basically is the one that prompts the further and rapid melting of these glaciers because of their color getting more black, and the heat absorption power is increasing. So that basically is the one which prompts more, you can say, rapid glacial melting, which we normally hear every day. Studies have also indicated that Pakistan, as compared to the rest of the world during the last 1 decade or so, has faced up, or you can experienced double the more heat or environment as compared to the rest of the world. So this again talks of the vulnerability of the climate to the country. 2010 flood brought about massive devastation, and a research made there by the University of Tokyo with the Pakistan Met Department indicated that there is a shift in the monsoon, and now additional 25 districts, including 14 from Punjab and 11 from KP, they shall be further impacted on round the clock, you can say, as and when the monsoon hits the country. So this is an added vulnerability to the country's, you can say, hydrometeorological situations. Based on that, we got into a district level multiple risk profiling of the country, and we come up with this sort of a figures. This is just for the sake of showing that we have divided the country into very high, medium, low, and very low risk profile, and based on that we undertook our initiatives on ground. Another important aspect that we are going to face with and we are facing is the looming danger of water scarcity and the water shortage in the country. You will be surprised to see that we just have only 10% of our surface water underutilization as compared to the 40% which is the global trend. So this means that we need to have over 30% more water resources to put into place so that we can meet up with the requirements of the people, and specifically the poor and those who are basically always take the brunt of any disaster on ground. Only 30 days of water storage available as compared to the 100 days, which is again an important aspect to note. The heat wave of 2015 has also indicated that the country is going to be hit by this sort of a disaster again and again, and we need to take care of the vulnerable communities in particular. Very briefly, you can see that the flood of 2010 to 2015, there is about 40 million of population which got affected. And most of this population, rather all this population, was the one who are at the poverty level or who are the most vulnerable. I'm not going to show this. Basically, these are the damages of the 2005 earthquake and then the earthquakes between 2008 to 2015 onwards. Based on this, a study was undertaken with the support of the World Bank, and that brought out some very important aspects or very important, you can say, findings. Number one was, an average impact, if that hits the country, it is going to bring about $1.2 to $1.8 billion to a country. And however, if a flood of 2010 or an earthquake of 2005 hit the country, we are going to be getting an impact of about 15.5 billion to our economy, which will be or which is going to be 7% of our GDP and about 40% of our federal budget. So this is something very important which basically prompted us to go and to look into some innovations and some new, you can say, practices which otherwise are being practiced or experimented elsewhere in the world. Very briefly, one slide on the present disaster management system. When Pakistan got independence in 1947, at that time we had the Calamity Act, and now we are basically working under the National Disaster Management Act after taking so much of a, you can say, progress into it, and now we are well aligned to the International Hugo Framework for Action and United Nations Sendai Framework on DRR. So under which it is always required that the disaster management and the climate change should be directly under the leadership or under the top leadership of a country. Briefly, the mechanism, there is a disaster management commission at the federal level, and then there is a provincial commissions and the district commissions at the provincial and the district commission level separately, and they basically work together in the event of any response situation on ground. In all, the system is basically relating to policy formulation, its implementation, coordination, and effective monitoring in order to ensure that response is good. And these are all the stakeholders which we combine together and what we know as the disaster management or the national disaster management. And the important aspect of is the people for which we are basically doing all this response and all that preparedness. Under this scenario, we now had our national DRR policy, and there are three pillars. That is the risk knowledge, prevention and mitigation, and the final one is the preparedness. And you may kindly see into that, the final one is the financing mechanism. How well we take care of the vulnerabilities and the damages on ground so that without impacting our GDP and our economic growth, we can continue with our day-to-day progress by meeting with the disasters on ground. So this is an important pillar of this entire system, based on which we got our 10-year disaster management plan. And the plan talks very profoundly about taking care of the lowest level of a community as far as the poverty is concerned by innovations through more, you can say, latest interventions on ground. Based on that, we undertook a demand assessment study. We you can say got into collaboration with Munich Climate Risk Insurance. Manager Income Support Program provided us with the wealth of data which they had got. 5 districts were selected: Charsadar, Rawalpindi, Tharparkar, Poonch, and Ziyarat. And then the main disasters that we studied were earthquake and floods. Based on that, we come up with a Pakistan first ever disaster risk insurance framework, which is going to be launched very soon, most probably this month. In that, whatever research or whatever financing model that we have suggested has been based on the formula or the poverty scorecard of Benazir Income Support Program, which suggests that, which suggests that if a person who is getting 1,500 as per month as a support from the Benazir Income Support Program, looking into our ground vulnerabilities, we are required to put in at least 15,000 rupees per person in the event any disaster of like 2010 or 2005 hits the country. So I will stop here, and I would say that we are very much in the process to get this collaboration with Benazir Income Support Program further enhanced to practically put this initiative on ground. Sir, I thank you, and I thank